Everyone, this is Marduk's Musing, and today, as usual, I'm here with Dorje, and today we're going to do our part two for our astrological forecast for 2025, and we're also going to front load for you guys some information on the planets so you kind of understand what we're interacting with, and then we'll go into a couple charts, maybe three, four, five charts for the remainder of the year, and maybe Dorje and I will discuss just some little hits for the following year, and that's what we'll do. Dorje, you want to share anything? Say hello.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, we're moving into an exciting 2025, and you've probably heard, if you're interested in the subject, a lot of astrologers who are deeply kind of troubled or intrigued by what's going to happen in 2025. And so we already covered the first half in episode one, which you can find on our channels, and now we're going to launch into the second half here. I do have a question for you, Mario. It's kind of the astrology business, I think, to be like, oh my gosh, this is the year. Because I remember that in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. Like everybody's like freaking out, like this is going to be such a big year. But it does seem like this year is going to be monumental in some shifts that are occurring. And when we're talking about 2025, when we're reviewing the year ahead, we do touch in on personal effects that one might see in one's chart, but we're mostly focusing on, the mundane quality. And mundane astrology is associated, or it's about what is happening in the world body politic, and the world soul and the movement of humanity. That's more of what mundane astrology is about. Um, so there's different ways of approaching it. Like you call Mario or you call me, you get a personal reading. That's your 2025. But here on, the internet, YouTube, blog sphere, uh, we're talking about the world in general with some very general statements for personal experiences that might occur.
Yeah, I think you said that very precisely and clearly. Essentially, what we're doing is presenting to you the movie that's going to be playing this year.
Yeah.
And, I think it's important to acknowledge for everyone that this movie will be playing and it will also be playing on your attention and attempting to subsume your attention so that you're actually giving away your essence to it. So this, in essence, will be a good reminder also for what to look out for because we're all busy with our lives. And the first 6 months of the year that Dorje and I covered is actually the time to really put your goals forward with great impact. The latter part of this year will be more of a reflection. Okay, how did I handle it? What do I need to modify, add to, subtract? But the impact, and as Dorje said, in the context of these last 5 years, and how every discipline is guilty of attempting to over enlarge its importance, especially astrology as well. Regardless, we know that 2020 was a huge year. And certain astrologers were aware that that conjunction of Pluto and Saturn were going to be of great impact, which of course is historically had to do with plagues and it's what happened essentially. But yes, 2025 is a year of equal, if not more impact. However, it's going to be more the first 6 months as I see it, because the leading up to maybe I'd say mid-spring and to mid-year, we're only going to get a taste of what we're fully going to experience in 2026.
Hmm.
So that is why I would underscore what Dorje is saying in the sense of that is why 2025 is really important. Not because the whole year is just going to overwhelm and drive us into some uncharted transhumanist dystopian nightmare? No, because it's going to give us a of the dystopian transhumanist nightmare so that we can adjust to it and position ourselves for how much we want to be involved with that and how much energy we have to create our own kind of reality or extension of our goals and in what context that may work in. Dorje, you want to add to that, or you want me to start putting up?
Uh, no, so that was great. Yeah, yeah, that was great. Yeah, start putting up some charts and let's take a look at what is going to be rolling our way.
Okay, so I'm gonna put up first the front loading for everyone because this is what we're doing here is mundane astrology. So what that means is that we're interpreting the planets as expressions of different classes of society and how they interact. So today, when Dorje and I start discussing the planets in our wayward way, as we do, keep all this in mind. Maybe write it out, maybe take a screenshot. Very generic write-up I did last night. So the sun represents our leaders, our heroes, and our fathers in our life. And so, I don't know where, Elon Musk and Trump and all these guys fit in because certainly not my leaders. They're leaders of the collective. They're
Mm.
certainly not my heroes either. But they have the heroic roles because those have been given to them in some context. And they're certainly not my father, in any extension of the term, in any hint of the term. But I just give that to you guys as examples that we have. They may not be our personal leaders or our personal guides, but they do represent that stigma as a collective. They are representing that. So I just wanted to make that known. Our moon is going to be, of course, our mothers and our protectors and our gatherers. And the moon is kind of the programming of our reality. So in some sense, it's our emotional well-being from day to day and how that's regulated by the goddess Media, really, or media, right? Which is always trying to run the show and always trying to run us into some fear program. So we have to protect. So that there's a relational energetic with the moon. Mercury is our intellectuals, the fools, right? I love the concept of King Lear, right? Or in Shakespeare, right? How the fool was the only one who would tell him the truth, tell the king the truth of reality. And so the role of the fool is always really important to me. It's an important archetype that I make sure to add to Mercury. And then we have the merchants, and it also represents the youth. And the way that Mercury is going to go this year, it's going to be important to watch that. Venus represents the culture elites, the artist, our currency, our monetary currency. Of course, Venus is going retrograde in for March. And it represents our food supply as well. And there's issues with currency, food supply right now. So that's being talked about. Mars represents our military, our warriors, our defense, security, and protects a nation's sovereignty. So really important where Mars is and what Mars is doing. And of course, we have Mars retrograding and not clear till May, not fully direct out of shadow till May. Jupiter is our personal law, but on a mundane level, it stands for the judges, the courts, the educators, the just the law as it represents itself in the mundane world. Saturn is the legislators, those who create the law, the executives, in a sense, the punishers, because they determine what we're punished for, how the law punishes. And on an individual level, Jupiter is the law that we follow, and Saturn will correct us accordingly if we don't follow our own law. Uranus, it rules revolutionaries, innovators, inventors. Also, it represents the class of our air defense and our air force. Neptune represents the dreamers, the poets, the visionaries, the religious leaders, the pacifists, the healers, the rescuers, as well as our Navy and sea power. And Neptune's really important, of course, because it's going to be at the heart of the Aries vortex along with Saturn. Pluto represents the reformers, the transformers, the destroyers of society. Pluto's represents extremes. And Pluto's out of bounds this year. So, as Dorje was saying in his recent article that he did on Out of Bounds Mercury, right? I think Dorje, you were
Mars,
or
Mars.
Out of Bounds Mars. In his recent article, and Dorje does these articles like they come out weekly. They're astrological and they're amazing. So please subscribe to that and check them out. But he did an article on Out of Bounds on Mars, and we have Out of Bounds out of what? Out of bounds Pluto as well this year.
Hmm.
And Pluto connecting with that sextile to the Aries vortex. And Pluto's going into gate 41, which is the beginning of a new cycle for humanity. And I don't know how many overlays I need to add to Pluto, but I think Pluto is the star or the villain of the show this year. And we can always get back to that and present. The Aries vortex is the world point, the world degree. It happens on March 20th. The sun will go into this degree. And then on March 30th, Neptune will join the sun there as it moves through, along with Venus and Mercury and the other um, uh, inner planets. And it's a very important point because it's been charged by the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction of 2021
Hmm.
when they were both in Aquarius, when they both started this new cycle from 2020 to 2032, which some astrologers are calling the Great Era, but it's spelled with an A. And it's about the new Jupiter cycle, really, the 12-year Jupiter cycle. But there's this mini cycle within it called the Aries Vortex, and that's 2025 to 2027. And like any synodic cycle, it's going to be hitting its intense points and then it's going to calm. But the reason that I'm really underscoring the Aries Vortex this year, besides that it's just starting, is it's also going to be hitting the eclipse of late September, the
Hmm.
solar eclipse that's occurring. And so we're going to go over that too. The minor grand trine is part of the Aries Vortex. It's Pluto sextiling Neptune, and Saturn in the Aries vortex at Aries 0, 1, and 2 degrees, along with Uranus as it goes in the Gemini on July 7th, creating the first real powerful impact of this Aries vortex. But of course, it does start in March and it'll go on until I think it's April of 2027. And so I'll go ahead and stop that. Dorji, you want to add to that while I add another chart?
No, no, that's great. That's just a great overview. A couple of small notes. The moon also in mundane astrology. I think it was mentioned in Abu Mashar and On the Revolutions. uh, represents the people in general. So then like really hard transits that hit the moon of a national chart will often represent something that really like hits the people of that nation. And then also, yeah, I mean, Pluto hasn't been out of bounds for over 20 years. It's a very disruptive time. The last time you had Pluto out of bounds in like such a series of years as we're about to experience was World War II, which was obviously a very disruptive time. And unfortunately, there's a lot of astrologers speculating we may be moving into a world war here, kind of footing here, or realignment of national identities, national allegiances, and so all of that. I mean, we'll get into that as we continue to talk, but. Lot going on this year. A lot going on.
Do you have a year on that for what year Pluto was out of bounds? Was it 42 or 43?
So as starting in March 1938, and then finally moving out of that cycle, May 1953,
Oh wow.
peaking in April 1945. And so then it was out of bounds briefly in the late 80s, October 86 to September 89, and November 87, September 88. What was that? The fall of the Berlin Wall, right? Same time. Now it's going to be out of bounds every single year up until 2035, off and on, peaking October 6th through 16th, 2030, which is really interesting. That's the Iron Dog year in the Tibetan Buddhist Kali Chakra calendar. And there is a prophecy that's very old in Tibetan Buddhism that during the Iron Dog year 2030, there will be a nuclear war. So let's all hope and pray that such kinds of things do not occur, such horrors do not descend upon humanity.
Yeah, we know that this era period from 2020 to 2032, I think we know on a collective level, an intuitive level that there's going to be a lot of wars, and
Mm,
hopefully it won't get to that extremity. Okay, so
yeah, war is a terrible thing.
go ahead and share. Yeah, especially when it's not our war. And that'll be a theme this year because if things get to the point where some countries are seeking, a draft or something,
Mm.
we're looking at like a 60s thing again, where people are like, I'm fighting for who? For what exactly?
Oh yeah, yeah, for
We're
sure.
going to be
Yeah.
with any part in it because who's we're fighting the wars of bankers. There's no real wars between individuals. These wars
No, yeah.
political. These are all wars for profit, and tech innovation, and pretty much our souls and our minds. And okay, let's start on the first chart. We're getting too crazy without looking at the chart. Okay, so what I got up is this is the Jupiter Venus conjunction of August 11th. I was like, oh, is there
Mm.
something hopeful this year? Is there something that's shining, that's gonna feel really nice and great? And this showed up. And at this point, Jupiter, I'll just start us off, Dorje, and at this point, Jupiter will be in Cancer already, which is going to be in Cancer for about a year, um,
Hmm.
starting in June till next year. And at this point in time, Venus is going to hit it. Now, let me add a quick front load because there's other things here. I did add two types of asteroids here. So I didn't add the hopeful healing, asteroids. I apologize for that. What I left on was the disturbing dark death abuse asteroids along with asteroids that significate financial shifts. So just let
Hmm.
everyone know. Next time I'll be sure to have the healing asteroids up because it is a healing year and it is about healing with that North Node in Pisces. So,
Hmm.
but I'll just start there. It's at the here in this chart on August 11th, Washington, D.C. I have it at 10:55 in the morning, occurring as a conjunction, almost ex pretty much exact. I have it with Libra on the ascendant, and thus Jupiter and Venus on the midheaven. So I think that's really nice. Uh,
Hmm.
what do you think? What do you want to add?
That's it's just yeah, it's very beautiful. Right off the bat, you notice that the moon, representing the people, again representing the people, is going to be trining Venus and Jupiter and the North Node. So some kind of like cultural healing movement, some kind of personal healing movement. It's just a great time for feeling like some kind of resolution can occur that feels like, hey, everything's moving in the right direction. That there's shifts here to be hopeful about during this year, and that there's times of ease that are going to occur. And those times of ease, early August. You're also at the exact same time that so the moon is going to hit that Venus and Jupiter, representing like a good and just law and wealth and plentitude, summer of love. Like, hey, that's like it's kind of a summer of love aspect. Look, you got that Cancer, you got that Pisces. Uh, the North Node is also involved, trying. So there's like, okay, we can move in a direction of hope. We can move into a direction of universal understanding and peace. Don't know what it's going to be, but that's very, very attractive. Also, a great day for a wealth creating or generating astrological election, all you got to do is get that ascendant to clear Mars, because the ascendant, when it's if you put Venus on the midheaven, um, and Jupiter on the midheaven, then you got to get the ascendant to clear Mars, to use that as a practical election. But there's many. Maybe you'd want to, I don't know, let's see, if you put um, Sagittarius on, no, that doesn't do it. Let's see, if you put um, Pisces on the ascendant at that time, conjunct the moon, conjunct the north node, you get Jupiter and Venus uh, conjunct in the fifth house, and you get Sagittarius in the 10th house. If you have any type of creative business endeavor you want to launch, that is the day to do it. That is a really great day for that. So those are my quick thoughts.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. That's brilliant. I'm going to add just a little color with the asteroids. We have Sun conjunct Requiem there. Requiem is a death asteroid. But this Sun would represent our leaders, and it's going to be actually there all year. So they'll be off and on all year until it well, no, actually no. It's going to be near Jupiter at some point, but at this point it's going to be near the sun, which represents our leaders. I don't know, that would be more public, but just something I noticed there. Moon's also conjunct Nessus, so as long as we're in the moment and getting through our emotions, as Dorje said, it's a great elective period. And so that's great. And then what other things? Sappho's? No, that's not close enough. Hades conjunct Jupiter. I have all the dark asteroids here, but no, there's nothing else. It looks great. And in terms of just the chart for the day and for the summer especially, I agree with Dorje that this is kind of a great period and part of the summer for maybe festivals, like dance festivals or music festivals. I think this is a great summer of relief from all the tension, and chaos that we maybe
Nice, yeah.
in the spring. So we'll go to the next chart. Let me know if you want to add anything to that in the meantime while I pull up this chart, man.
No, I mean, I feel it with the dance festivals and the music festivals. It's really beautiful. The only trouble, I think, is that almost the same day you have Mercury post Pluto, and so you don't just get a sweet soup. You get some kind of like real like difficult words coming out. You get some real kind of difficult communication, some kind of like arrogance of leadership occurring, with Mercury and Leo opposed Pluto and Aquarius, some kind of like power and control dynamic. So it's just, but that's astrology. You never get the perfect chart. But I think you're right on about like music festivals, dance festivals. Really good. Unfortunately, also you have Mars opposing Saturn, retrograde Saturn on that same week too. Um, I wouldn't, I'd be careful, about it, putting yourself in a place where you could be in danger just because things are feeling good on that day. Because Mars opposed Saturn, Mercury opposed Pluto. It's a little bit of like well, the road is good, but if you fall off the cliff on either side, it's going to be a long way down.
Yeah, definitely want to underscore what Dorsey is saying. Pluto opposed Mars can also represent in your life as someone taking on the archetype of the Mars or the Pluto. So watch
Yeah.
out for interactions. Just look for reconciliation and resolving polarities, when you're interacting with others. We just recently went through another Mars Pluto. So how did this weekend go for you? How did it affect you, the recent Mars Pluto opposition? Because it's been in the air and it's going to be continue to be in the air for all of 2025, off and on.
Yeah. Just kind of like as a slight edit there. So it's going to be a Mars Saturn opposition and a Mercury Pluto
Oh
opposition
yeah.
on
Okay.
this particular day. Mars and Pluto are going to be trying each other, trying Uranus. which is it's actually a nuts day. August 11th is a nuts day. Like it's a little bit of like, well, some people are going to be in the meat grinder, and just like dealing with some kind of like totally new upheaval or change of direction or change of plans, and other people are going to be like in the ethereal like delight of being alive, and so you draw your lots, and if you craft your life well, you get to choose where you are on that day. So I would suggest to all our listeners that they definitely this year craft their life well and are very intentional with what they do and what they get involved with.
Yeah, once we get to the eclipses, I'll kind of narrate a little picture of the year so you guys can see kind of clearly and make plans accordingly. Okay, so the next chart we got is this is August 29th. Now I did this chart because this is where we can really see the Aries vortex in play again. So again, it'll be off and on from 2025 until 2027. And Dorje, you can see this clearly. All right.
Hmm.
So I'm just gonna point it out what it is real quick, and then you can come and help us narrate what's going on in the chart. So if you guys look down here, you'll see Saturn and Aries, sorry, Saturn and Neptune right there in the beginning of that Aries world degree. So we got Saturn at 0 degrees Aries, where it's not comfortable at all in fall. And then we got Neptune in Aries 1 degree, where it's not necessarily very comfortable either. And then we have from up a little upwards here, we see Uranus has just entered pretty much Gemini, and it's at 1 degree Gemini, which is an exact sextile to this Neptune at 1 degree. And then we look for Pluto on the other side here. So just a little to the left, we see Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius. So this is exact. And I don't have it on here, but the Venus star point, which is a whole another discussion, and I haven't even mentioned it on my channel before, but I'm going to do a video on it soon, is going to be at 2 degrees Aries as well. That's when Pluto hits and Pluto and the sun, sorry, Venus and the sun get together every certain amount of years. It's like a really large cycle that creates a pentagram, creates a star over a period of like 200 years. Pretty incredible, very beautiful, very like soulful, powerful energy. And it's going to be there as well. It looks like the prey asteroid, the dark evil prey asteroid is not close enough, and neither is Nessus before it, so that's amazing. And that's kind of like a vortex. I'm calling it a vanishing point, and I'll do a video on it because I think things are going to emerge and things are going to disappear. And so I'll go over that in my own video when I go over that. But Dorothy, you want to add to this chart right here?
I mean, it's just incredible. Like, what is the new
August 20.
decade? What is the new, the new epoch? What is it? I think they're being called Generation Beta. This is it. This is when it starts. This is like everything's just hitting that 0 1 degree point at the exact same time. There's a new epoch coming upon us, a new generation being born, a new generation of experience. This chart, like, there's so much juice in it. But before we get into that, I'd like you to comment on what the Aries point is and like how it's viewed. If you don't mind, Mario, like how do you interpret the Aries point?
I'll give a little context before I do. So some context is that it's never occurred before. So this is something that has never quite happened. We've had Neptune and Saturn in Aries together. We've had Pluto in Aquarius 246 odd years ago when the last rave kind of this is from human design's perspective, when the last change of human genetics occurred,
Mm,
which was the last time that Pluto entered gate 41, the codon, specific codon, changing the human design centers from 7 to 9 centered, changing humans from 7 to 9 centered beings.
Hmm.
So I'll come at it from both the astrological and the human design. From the human design perspective, Pluto moving into this point of Aquarius 1 degree is a genetic shift. It's huge. It's leading up to 2027, which is the shift of the right angle cross of destiny of humanity. So that's one whole area of it. The second area of it is that Pluto is sextiling a point, which is the world degree. So it's the beginning degree of the astrological new year, in essence, Aries being a beginning. And we have Saturn and Neptune there. And in addition, it's in sextile to Uranus and Gemini, which historically has been associated with war, with also innovation, but that's innovation related to war and related to agriculture and the last big shift was industrialization. It was a technological
Hmm.
shift into industrialization, whereas now it's into AI. So it's another technological shift, another kind of rung of the ladder of man climbing down into this dark destiny of giving up his spirit to prosthetics is one way of looking at it. Like it's like what is happening? Is it a real merger between iron and clay? And so anyway, so we have those three themes happening, all coordinating in this one part of the chart, the 0 and 1 degree Aries, along with the Venus star point. And to me, it's creating a vanishing point as I see it. But it's also, well, a vanishing point in terms of, as I was saying, things that can become present for humanity and things that can disappear for humanity. And as I see it, and as I said in my last video, and one of my buddies called me on it, was I did say something to the degree of a collective awakening, but there is no such thing as just as one just collective homogenized experience of reality. We're living in a time when we may have had, of course, 10, 30, 40 years ago, one kind of media construct where we all coordinated to this one reality. But since the inception of cell phones in 2008, we are all now lost in, well, not necessarily lost, but we're all wandering in our own reality, our own stream. I mean, these algorithms of modern tech are actually subjecting us to our own realities, our own fragments, our own kind of, you know, um, I like to use the analogy of like shards of glass. Like maybe the image of the collective is one whole image, but it's all fractured with all these shards of glass, and we're all like in our own shard, seeing our own fragmented perspective of the collective. We're all kind of in our own stream of reality these days. I mean, that is what it seems these algorithmic AI and ASI um, you know, technological innovations are taking us, the reality that we're being given, essentially. So, I said a lot there. Let's see if I can wire it all back together. I guess I'm saying that this point is just so much energy is putting into it that it is in essence a moment of some kind of either awakening or just really just straight up just a possibility of making anything happen that you want to happen in your life. On a mundane level, there's agendas. We know there's transhumanist agendas. We know that there's tech agendas. We know there's all these agendas. But in our own reality, away from the homogenized collective kind of impulses and us not paying too much attention to it, we can actually make something happen in our own life. It's extremely powerful. Dorje, to take us.
No, no, that's beautiful. I mean, yeah, on the collective level, you kind of like entered into a macabre, dark techno world there a little bit. And I don't think that's uncalled for because there's certainly going to be that quality going occurring or arising. We have definitely a new world order being pushed upon us. and it's kind of like, you can see it. Like I think President-elect Trump came out today or yesterday, and, just said very directly, like, we're going to change things, and it's going to be something that no one's ever seen before, what we do in this country. And it's going to set up this country to be great for hundreds of years into the future. I mean, who knows what kind of fantasies he has playing in his brain, but we're all going to be subject to those fantasies for good or ill. And when you look at that Aries point, you hit it on the head. It is the birthing of something new, because the Aries point is the moment of birth. And what you have hitting that Aries point at the exact same time is you have Neptune, which is the birth of a type of spiritualization. And then you have Saturn, which is the birth of a new type of matter. And so, again, we talked in the last video about the possibility of this being representative of, and I would be prone to the word, to Terence McKenna's word, the singularity, a singularity where a new form is born. And so a new form of humanity, perhaps AI, a new form of AI, perhaps perhaps new forms of government, perhaps new forms of rulership. But then that's just on the mundane level, like worldwide, new structures that the world is going to like move through. And the unfortunate part about that is, like, as new structures are created, oftentimes old structures resist the transformation. And from that resistance of the transformation, oftentimes a lot of flesh bodies get ground up. That's like kind of the dark side. And I pray that that's not how this exhibits itself. I mean, hopefully we're on a spiral up in terms of like what one might call an evolutionary path towards like understanding the human being as spiritual, and then allowing the material and the mechanical to be taken care of by the material and the mechanical, so the human being can exist within the human being's spiritual sovereignty. That would be ideal. But rarely in the human realm do we get the ideal. Usually we get the mix. And so who knows how this mix is going to play out. But as you said so eloquently, Mario, how the mix plays out for you might very well depend upon your own ability to manifest your vision, to clearly define your vision, and to put your vision forward into the center of your eye of like, this is what I'm manifesting this year. This is what I'm manifesting for my life. At the same time, I kind of like urge everybody to be intuitive and to like, you know, should I stay here or should I go elsewhere? Like, where do I roll with this? How do I roll with these waves that are coming through this year of new experiences? How do I, like, because you mentioned like Uranus and Gemini associated with war. Last time Uranus was in Gemini at that point, that was the US Civil War. And so I would not be surprised if we weren't again in that type of dynamic of polarity. I mean, there's already these tensions that are kind of like building up, and we do have someone who likes to exasperate polarities, taking the role of leadership, and which isn't always bad, because polarities help break things down and redefine new structures. So I'm not like a Buddha. I can't see like the benefit or the ill of it in the long term. Um, but I can say, like, you don't want to be at the wrong place in the wrong time when a polarity is being broken down in a radically like destructive or transformative way. Um, and with that, I would hope that again we're on the spiral up, and we can go through this process of transformation and redefining ourselves as a species, as a metric of the world soul, in a way that's not as physically violent and is more um, mentally and technologically transformative. And like a lot of the work now that's being done on arguing about what kind of governments we should have or what our places should be in the world are done over the internet through memes, through social media channels, rather than through direct physical conflict, which is a change. That's a change from the previous like
Right.
5,000 years.
Mhm.
And maybe that's a good thing, although there's still areas like if you're in Gaza or if you're in Ukraine or or Syria, you've still kind of gone through it over the last decade, as these new technologies come online and change the way that war is fought. But I don't want to go too deeply into the war because it's a dark subject, and my hope is that instead that this new Aries points and new singularity, the singularity of these planets hitting the first degree of Aquarius, of Aries, and of Gemini, air and fire signs, is a spiritual awakening for humanity. That would be my greatest aspiration.
Um, so eloquently expressed, Dorje. I appreciate. I'm gonna add to that a little more because it's just so. I mean, there's so much here. What I want to add is Dorje's point about us retaining the soul, our souls, our spiritual essence through this, whatever it is, this it's even more disturbing when you express it in a human design frame because it sounds like the time of humanity's end is near. Not in existing as humans, not as continuing to have human lives and families, not in that sense, but in the sense that the program will no longer be supporting what it is to be human. And this is actually said quite literally for 2027 in the right angle cross of the sleeping phoenix. It's actually said this literally, that it's the program will no longer be supporting the human collective. And thus the sleeping phoenix is about individuation for humans. But we don't need to go into that too much right now because it's already kind of here with this Aries vortex. I'll explain. Now, Dorje's point about retaining our spirituality, we could actually see that in the sense of us not giving our sovereignty nor our power away to AI and making sure we're retaining our control over it and not giving away our power to it, meaning to say, like we have now, we utilize AI for, hey, what about, can you give us some information about this? Can you construct this image for us? Can you do this for us? Okay, great. Let it be let it continue to be our secretary. Let's not give it any more power than that. Otherwise,
Hmm.
otherwise it could be we've already seen evidence of this. There have been reports over the years, and they continue of an inimical expression of what it is to be human from these AI bots or voices that come about. These have been reported over the years. An expression of a hatred of humanity. It makes me almost want to go into like a Rudolf Steiner kind of perspective about how AI has always been here with us. The aromatic
Mm.
have always been here, which I have to agree with. Um, but I want to say though, I want to say for for the positive perspective of this, if us retaining our spirit would look like us continuing to be in charge of it and not giving away our power to AI or ASI. That's number one. Number two, I'd say is to illuminate kind of what already is starting to become plain and aware to us is these new structures that our leaders are talking about, could look like the long rumored smart cities that people have been talking about, which it seems like the new leader is renaming freedom cities. Now,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
just want to add a fun anecdote. Like for years now, since about 2013, in the context of younger generations, I've been referring to smartphones as dumb phones. And it's been hilarious to watch the reaction I get from kids and from younger people. Like, what are you talking about? Like, as if taking it personally that I'm calling their phone dumb, right?
Hmm.
But essentially, it is. It's not a smartphone at all because it's just an imitation of us. It's just our like centuries obsession with projecting technology onto something outside of us to replicate ourselves. The age-old narcissistic tale of us recreating ourselves, right? So we can see ourselves from a different vantage point, right? That's what the artist does. That's what art is about. That's why humans express art. Now, so it's ironic to me that these cities are that are supposedly in construct are being called freedom cities. And I expressed that very directly and intently because I don't see how I would want to go to any new place, new city that's being constructed for me on some homogenized, collective, solvent, save all ideology. That's disturbing to me. So I just add that along because these new structures, these changes that they're speaking of, we'll see what they are and we'll decide what's for us and what's not. But on the side of what Dorje is saying, if it comes to be expressed as a polarity, in other words, between, Luddites or sovereigns, versus these, these new free dumb cities, I do think that it's important that we don't fall into extreme polarities.
Mm-hmm.
Some balance that can be attained. We don't need to give up digital technology fully. I think it's important to not agree to a digital identification program of any kind, but digital technology is something that could be balanced with analog. Analog has not disappeared completely and it doesn't need to. And analog's a very important expression of what it is to be human, including how we hear sound in music. I mean, there's been plenty of stuff written on that, on the effect of digital music and sound on us versus analog. So, but I'll stop there because I know Dorsey is ready to respond there because there's just so much here. This is such a powerful nexus point of humanity that we're going to experience a peek into.
Yeah, it's interesting because Uranus and Gemini is just contemplating it. Like we almost have had a preview of that with Jupiter and Gemini. This expansion of the polarity, this expansion of the two sides of the coin, and people going to one side or the other. But Jupiter is a benefic. Jupiter, while it's been in Gemini, has been kind of like containing or holding both sides into like, okay, well, we can move forward, we can move forward with this. Uranus is a little bit more of like the pinball game or the ping pong. It's between each side. It's not both sides at the same time when it's in Gemini. It's a bouncing back and forth radically between, the tension between technocracy, technocratic cities, technocracy, and then the tension between being a humanist, And I still maintain that, the value of being a human is going to be being a human going forward. Up until now, over the last, since the Industrial Revolution, it's the amount of efficiency you can get out of being human. And I maintain that part of what we're moving into is that the machines will be doing the efficiency work. And then the creative being is going to be what the human work is going to be. That maybe it's a little bit rose-colored glasses on my eyes, but I'm a positivist in the end,
No,
so that's what I'm hoping, and absolutely like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, they are both big fans, along with a lot of the big money people in Silicon Valley of technocratic freedom cities. And they'll call them freedom cities to appease the MAGA crowd as much as they feel like they need to. That's okay. But what they really mean is they mean technocratic controlled cities, probably according to the Tokyo model or the Singapore model or the Shanghai model. They want that. They feel like that's a more valid form of government. And there's this form of government called the technocracy, which was very popular in the 30s, and it appears that Elon Musk's grandfather was a member of this movement, and it was about redesigning America from Panama all the way up to Canada, including Greenland, which we're hearing is the goal to be a technocracy where the scientists and the engineers and the computers are in charge of how society is moved and run. So it's not far-fetched to think like, well, this is actually what they're trying to do, just in their own way. And everybody can have personal opinions about that. If you're like, you know, a crypto bro, you might have some opinions. If you're like my mom and you can't figure out how to use your cell phone half the time to order something off of Amazon, then you have a completely different opinion. But that's the polarity, and the human experience is about negotiating that. The astrology of the year is like, here you go. Here's the meal. We're putting the meal on the plate in 2025.
Oh man.
Like, oh, which dishes are you going to put like some portions on your plate from? And then how are you going to eat that? Because this is the meal that's being served.
I'm hungry. Skipping this meal. Moving
Yeah.
on. And the meals that follow. So
Yeah.
yeah, so thanks everyone for listening. It seems that Dorje and I have extended our sequence on this particular chart. So we're gonna do a part three. Um, we still
Nice.
have, we still got the September 7th eclipse to cover, the September 21st eclipse, which is going to compound everything we're talking about because that September eclipse is going to be in 28 Virgo, which is about 2, 3 degrees from Libra, from all the cadent signs. So that's pretty much in, what is that? In sextile, yeah, in sextile to the Aries vortex. So
Mm.
that's we're gonna start unloading on that one too, and then we're gonna do one last chart, and it'll be the October 22nd when Neptune returns back into Pisces. So we still got three more charts. We're gonna do a part three. Thanks so much for listening, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Darcy, you
Yeah,
want?
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And Mario and I are both available for readings if you're looking for some guidance on navigating your life through 2025. And then also, I would encourage you to bookmark these YouTube channels because I think they'll be interesting to revisit as the year goes on. And not only will we do a part three, but then we'll do a year-end wrap-up too to just see like how it went. Uh,
Yeah.
it- you know, so thank you everybody for taking time out of your life to listen to how we're seeing the unfoldment of the year based on the movement of the planets and bodies and the human design channels. Thank you very much.
Thanks. And one last thing Dorsey reminded me of, the structure I promised you guys will be like this. Keep in mind that March is the eclipses and September is the eclipses. So you want
Hmm.
to keep in mind that don't have those months too active and keep the afterwards part what you want to do and travel and stuff you want to do so that you can get through those tough months. Okay. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay. Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Take care. Thank you, everybody.